We've got breaking news in the last hour. 400 people were evacuated from an Illinois hotel after a bomb threat. At that hotel, Texas Democrats and those supporting them. No one was injured and no bomb was found after a search. This comes as the battle over redrawing congressional maps escalates.
It's a bit of an understatement. But there you go, folks. Breaking news. Texas Democrats flee Texas to prevent Texas Republicans from gerrymandering the state further and rigging the 2026 midterms for Donald Trump. In response, Texas lawmakers say that those Democrats should be hunted down. Some suggest that the FBI should be employed to kidnap those Democrats and return them to Texas, something that Donald Trump endorsed yesterday. And as this rhetoric becomes increasingly more aggressive, we now have a bomb threat being issued against Texas Democrats and their supporters in Illinois. Before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, first things first, we condemn political violence. We have to. To have a functioning democratic republic, you forfeit your right to vigilante justice, to political violence. We have to provide for a system which holds those we believe have broken the law or those politically that we dislike, like politicians that we don't think represent us, to account in humane, just, civilized ways, and vote them out of office. Criticize them, protest them, dunk on them, with social media. That's what I like to do. But violence is unacceptable from left against right, from right against the left. And it seems pretty obvious that at least the potential for violence against these Texas Democrats, as demonstrated by this bomb threat, could be further aggravated by the insane rhetoric coming from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and the current Republican President of the United States, Donald Trump. Let's dive deeper into the article. As Bloomberg reports, Texas Democrats evacuated Illinois hotel after bomb threat. Democratic lawmakers who left Texas to block a redistricting vote received a bomb threat at their Illinois hotel, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Of course, it's been subsequently confirmed. The legislators evacuated the building but weren't harmed. Quote, "We are safe, we are secure, and we are undeterred," caucus leaders said in a statement that didn't identify the source of the threat. Some Texas Democrats departed the state over the weekend to block a vote on controversial new congressional maps backed by Donald Trump, who said that new districts will enable Republicans to add as many as 5 seats to the U.S. House of Representatives. By spreading out to states from Illinois to New York, Democrats left the Texas legislature short of the minimum number of lawmakers required to hold a vote, a tactic known as a quorum break. The bomb threat came a day after Texas Governor Greg Abbott petitioned the state Supreme Court to remove Gene Wu, the Democratic leader in the legislature's lower house, from office. That was the latest escalation in the redistricting fight that has spilled over to states across the U.S. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, said he would investigate the threat and told state police to maintain public safety. And again, I will point out that Republican lawmakers like Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton have used phrases like hunt down Democrats who are leaving the state. Let's see here. Democrats in the Texas House who tried to run away like cowards should be found, arrested, and brought back to the Capitol immediately. We should use every tool at our disposal to hunt down those who think that they are above the law. That is the hella corrupt Republican Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, who, by the way, is seeking to primary the current Texas Republican Senator, John Cornyn. He will almost certainly win the primary. Paxton will. And if he wins the primary, the threat of him being such a radical, corrupt Republican senator, even by corrupt Republican standards, might make Texas more flippable. I would say the odds are still against us, but it certainly puts Texas more in play than with a more establishment, less crazy, but still crazy figure like Cornyn. But here you are. You're having, the top law enforcement officer of Texas referring to Democrats who are simply engaging in a quorum break. They're not fugitives. They haven't broken the law. They haven't committed a felony, anything like that. They are simply denying Republicans their chance to try to screw over the country and undermine and rig the upcoming elections by simply fleeing nonviolently. They have every right to do that. But Ken Paxton says otherwise. No, they need to be hunted down. And then when Donald Trump talks about employing the FBI, which we discussed in a previous video, John Cornyn and Donald Trump, I might add, both say that the FBI should be used to effectively abduct these Texas Democrats to intrude on states' rights. These Democrats have not broken any law that requires FBI intervention, federal intervention, and taken back to Texas, where they should be forced to facilitate the gerrymandering of the Texas voting maps against them and their voters and their constituents to help Trump. It's an authoritarian nightmare. Time has a really good article about this. Can the Texas Democrats who fled the state be arrested? What to know? Donald Trump suggested the FBI may get involved in bringing a group of Texas Democrats back to their home state. Quote, they may have to, Trump said at a White House executive order signing event Tuesday when he was asked whether federal law enforcement should help locate and arrest state lawmakers at the center of a political standoff over a Republican redistricting plan. Quote, a lot of people are demanding they come back. It goes into the, this Time article talks about what we just already addressed, which is like the history of this back and forth vis-a-vis the Texas redistricting. Quote, or let's continue, Despite the threats, Democratic lawmakers appear unfazed. In response to Abbott, the Democratic caucus in the state House issued a succinct statement. Quote, come and take it. Trump is not alone in calling for the FBI's involvement. Texas senior U.S. Senator John Cornyn urged the agency in a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel Tuesday, quote, to take any appropriate steps to aid in Texas law enforcement efforts to locate or arrest potential lawbreakers who have fled the state. It's unclear whether the FBI will intervene, and the agency declined to comment. The FBI's website, however, states that the agency does not, quote, supervise or take over investigations of state and local law enforcement agencies, as its primary mandate is to look into federal crimes and enforce federal laws. State warrants can only be enforced by state troopers, but the FBI may assist local law enforcement in locating fugitives. But of course, since the warrants that Abbott issued for these Democratic lawmakers only matter to the state lines, like they don't work outside of Texas, Texas authorities can't do anything about the Democrats that have fled to New York and Illinois and other places. But again, Trump has been acting extraordinarily unlawfully since he's returned to power. We can't rule it out that he might try to weaponize federal law enforcement against these Democratic lawmakers who are simply not breaking the law and engaging in their constitutional right to quorum break. We're going to play the rest of this clip, though, regarding the bomb threat as well. But again, I have to emphasize this. Listen, I have my beef with the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party is an authoritarian cult of personality. I think Donald Trump is an authoritarian, a sociopath, a moron. And all of these things are true, but I have to say it again. It's important for everyone to remember, my audience, the audiences of others, that in a functioning democratic republic, you just don't have the right to engage in violence. You forfeit that right. You have systems in place like voting them out or criticizing, protesting, things of that nature when a politician does something that you don't like. And if a politician breaks the law, well, then hopefully they should be prosecutable. Right now, of course, Trump v. United States gives presidential immunity, which is absurd and anti-American to former presidents and sitting presidents. But you don't have the right to engage in violence, left against right, right against left. And so hopefully this situation will encourage people like Ken Paxton and others to dial back the rhetoric while still, if they want to criticize Texas Democrats even harshly, cool with that. That's fine. I disagree. I think Paxton's a schmuck. I think he's a corrupt, all sorts of things. But given the violence or the violent sentiments which has animated the MAGA movement. Obviously, there's been violence against Trump, against MAGA. That's wrong too. But we've seen the polling on this about how an increasing number of MAGA Republicans feel that violence is necessary to reclaim the country. We've seen violence, Trump supporters on January 6th tied directly to Trump, not violent people who happen to be Trump supporters, but violent Trump supporters who engage in violence for Trump's desired political ends. You would think that these Republicans would be a bit more mindful. But let's play the rest of this clip.
Our Trevor Zahaki is live in our newsroom this morning with an update for us. So, Trevor, how are Democrats responding?
Well, Karen, Democrats are saying this hasn't stopped them. They will continue in their fight against redistricting. The Texas House Democratic Caucus was planning on holding a news conference this morning about the new congressional maps, but that, of course, was canceled. According to the St. Charles Police Department, officers responded to a hotel and convention complex around 7:15 this morning. St. Charles Police and the Kane County Sheriff's Office bomb squad searched and did not find any device. After authorities gave the all clear, the 400 evacuees were allowed to return. In a statement, Texas House Democratic leaders wrote in part, quote, "We are safe, we are secure, and we are undeterred. We are grateful for Governor Pritzker, local and state law enforcement for their quick action to ensure our safety." And this escalation comes as President Trump suggested the FBI may get involved in arresting and returning Democrats who left Texas to prevent a quorum in this special session.
Yeah, and it goes on to basically recap what we said there, but I wanted you to hear the full statement from the Texas Democrats who were the victims of this bomb threat. There you have it, folks. Breaking news, the gerrymandering battle escalates, and it's important again. That's why I say, I go out of my way if you watch my videos when I use like expressions like fight and push back or self-defense. I always say politically, proverbially, metaphorically, because I just really want to stress public figures, myself included, we have to be as responsible as we can be with our rhetoric while also conveying things that we sincerely believe, and it's a fine line to walk. But hopefully this will inspire Donald Trump, Ken Paxton, Greg Abbott, and John Cornyn to dial back the hunt them down sort of shit. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.